want to start off today by asking you all to do something for me. I want you to close your eyes and picture in your mind an athlete. What do they look like? What is an athlete? And that's the real question here is when you think of an athlete, who and what do you see? What do you see? So over the past century, the number of women in sports has been constantly increasing, and it's creating this worldwide controversy because a century ago, women had no place in sports. And the most significant legal support that's been developed for gender equality in sports is this piece of American legislation called Title IX. And Title IX banned sex discrimination in all schools and other programs that receive federal funding. Title IX not only had a powerful effect on the American woman and her role and lifestyle, but it's caused this revolutionary development of global sports opportunities for women. So what is this law? What is this Title IX? What does it really mean? Over the 19th and 20th centuries, there's been an increasing demand in civil rights from African Americans, women, and other minority groups. And because of these hundreds of groups and thousands of people that are making these efforts towards their own civil rights, Congress shifted reform into high gear for women. It was in 1972 that Congress passed what's called the Education Amendments to the 1964 Civil Rights Act. And Title IX was a part of these education amendments. And Title IX, word for word, declared that no person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, or be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. Unfortunately, the guidelines for this law were not put in place until 1975, and schools had until 1978 to put these guidelines into practice. And on top of that, in 1984, the Supreme Court was interpreting the law in a way that exempted most of these sports and activity programs from abiding by Title IX. This isn't an ambiguous law here. It's pretty straightforward. Thankfully, in 1988, Congress was able to restore the original intent of Title IX. And although schools continue to fight Title IX nationwide, they don't want gender equality. Even Stanford and Vanderbilt and those famous colleges were against it. The law was successful in forcing many of these high schools and colleges to take the steps to equalize the support they gave to men and women's athletic programs. In the past century, the American woman has undergone a radical change in her personality, her role, and her lifestyle, and a great deal of this newfound woman, this new person, has been influenced by sports. And it has always seemed that sports have been a male-dominated endeavor. Those are the sports that are family names around the world, and everybody knows the guys in sports. Oddly enough, the turning point in American sports for women was actually this bicycle craze that happened in the 1890s. The bicycle did so much for female equality that even female activist Susan B. Anthony claimed that the bicycle did more to emancipate women than anything else in the world. Sports like horseback riding, boating, bicycling, archery, baseball, tennis, swimming, lacrosse, hockey, basketball, golf, fencing, and even track were added to the physical education programs at the top U.S. women's colleges at the change of the century. There was also this dramatic change in the female persona. The woman of the 1900s was a daredevil, and she had little in common with the frail, overprotected ladies chasing around their kids with the hot pot boiling and the laundry to do and the house to clean of the past. This new woman challenged the assumptions of what women could do, and therefore more traditional sports were becoming more widely accepted as part of female education and just female life in general. But despite some of these great leaps, female students were continuing to learn only the basics of sports. While their boys retained their place as tough leaders, women were taught to be modest and supportive. And Title IX could not have come at a better time. It was the superhero of the hour. In 1970, only 294,000 high school girls took part in interscholastic sports. That's out of all the girls in the country. But after the passage of Title IX, in 1978, that number increased to 1,600,000. That's a lot of girls. And women's scholarships went up as well. From less than 50 per year in 1970. They went up to 10,000 in 1978. 10,000! Title IX brought about widespread changes in school and college sports for girls. And in doing so, it helped create this new all-American girl. And as a result, the attitude of women and girls changed towards sports dramatically. No longer were sports a privilege for women. They were an inherent right. And Title IX did more than just change the persona of women. It produced this newfound respect for women, not only in sports, but just in general. And it created these unforeseen opportunities for women around the world. And although women have been participating in modern-day Olympics as early as the 1900 Games, the Second Olympics, they were not taken seriously until the passage of Title IX. Let me give you a quick example. At the 1900 Games, the first games that incorporated women, the only events with females in them were tennis, sailing, croquet, golf, ballooning, and equestrianism. And 3 of those events only had 1 woman participant. It's not that hard to figure out who won those events. And at the 1928 Games, the biggest embarrassment to women's sports occurred. And it was in the women's track and field event. It was during this 800-meter run that women's sports faced such extreme criticism, because during this 800-meter run, 5 of the 11 participants dropped out before the finish. And another 5 collapsed after reaching the finish line. And the last girl collapsed after she went into the locker room. And, this display made people pretty skeptical about women in sports. Why wouldn't it? If all the Lakers were dropping dead on the basketball court, I think we'd be pretty concerned about men's basketball. Turns out the skepticism was so severe that the 800-meter race was cut from the women's program, and it wasn't even reinstated until 1960. If it weren't for Title IX, women's sports would continue to face such extreme skepticism today. In the 1980s, Title IX spurred this worldwide fitness craze among women, and millions of women started running, bicycling, and joining gyms. They were rampant for exercise. And part of this was because the ideal beauty now included women that were taut, toned, and coming on strong. And women began to look at themselves with more self-confidence, pride, and satisfaction, especially if they were fit. In 1994, there was this survey by Women's Sports and Fitness magazine, which discovered, incidentally, 82% of the most powerful female politicians in Washington had actually participated in sports when they were younger. And sports didn't only give women more opportunities in politics, but thanks to the growth in cable TV, female athletes were receiving more coverage by the media. And of course, the most dramatic effect of Title IX is seen through school. In 2005 to 2007, 3 million girls were participating in high school athletics, and 100,000 women were participating in college athletics. Together, these numbers created an empowering change for women, which propelled them to new heights. And it also won them the respect from their male counterparts. Although there is still a great deal more money and resources that are given to male sports needs, Title IX has only been really enforced properly for 23 years. I mean, we're almost 23 years old. It's not very much time. And with continued evolution of our society and more acceptance of women in sports, the best is yet to come for women in athletics. Title IX has just provided the start of this, giving women staggering opportunities in sports, work, school, and their role in life, just their perspective of themselves in general. And when I asked you to close your eyes and picture an athlete, chances are that most of you thought of men. But without Title IX, there's no chance that anyone would have thought of a female athlete. No chance at all. And women are just as much athletes as men, and they have had to fight and claw for their right to play sports as equals with men. And they have proven that they are athletes. So close your eyes. And what does an athlete look like now? Thank you.